let's update our Fabric 117 project to 118.1. Let's see how to do that. Alright, we find ourselves back in IntelliJ once more, and in this tutorial we're going to be upgrading our project from 117.1 to 118.1. That is exactly right, and there are going to be a few limitations, however. Limitation number one, we're not going to have custom biomes. Oh, yes, because custom biomes in 118.1 are not yet figured out. At least that's what I've seen so far. I've not checked the couple of last days, but overall, the consensus is that biomes are, well, very freaking complicated, like so complicated that I'm almost willing to swear that's how complicated they are, but I'm not going to. So then you can sort of understand the extent to how complicated they are. And number two, I actually think that's all of the limitations that there are. We're going to have to change a bunch of stuff. I'm going to copy over a bunch of stuff here, but everything will be available to you in the GitHub repository. Once again, highly suggest looking at that. Also take a look at the gist, because all of the changes will be listed there basically as, well, in the gist as I usually do, because we're going to be jumping through different files here in just a little bit. So where do we start? Well, I mean, it really doesn't matter. First of all, we have to change all of the Gradle stuff. So first of all, in the build.gradle file, we're going to change this version 17 and this version to 17. So that's number one. Then we're going to go through, go down a little bit, and we're going to change this 16 to a 17. And then what we want to change is we want to change the dependency of our API here, of the portal API, to be beta 47 and 118, and beta 47 and 118. That is going to be fine. Then in our Gradle properties file, well, basically we can, check the current versions right here on fabric/versions. I already have those versions up on the other monitor. What we're also going to do is we're going to delete this Java home variable that is actually incredibly important. It's going to be 118.1.12, and the loader version is 12.12. This is going to be fine. We're going to just keep it as is, the mod version. You can, of course, also change this, but it is not strictly necessary. This is going to be 45.0 and 118. Now, that is fine. Next thing in the tutorial, mod mixin. That's actually nothing. This should be fine. We can keep this. If not, we can always change it later. Now, in the fabric mod JSON, we want to change this to 118x and this to Java 17, and that should be fine. And then we actually need to change one more thing in the build.gradle file that is at the very top right here, the snapshot. So very important. I know that this is a lot of things. Take a look at it again. Make sure that everything here should be fine. And then let's click the load Gradle changes. Now we're going to be greeted with a few errors. Nothing's going to work at the moment. Totally fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to get through it all. This is just a normal, well, part of updating. I, by the way, highly recommend that you at least make a backup of your project. Don't just start in. So now we did get a build successful, which is great, but there's still a few changes that we need to do, right? So don't be fooled by this. So number one, I actually want to check in the Gradle folder what our Gradle distribution here is, because we need to change this to be as 7.3. So we need to do this right here. And then what we need to do is we need to go to File, Project Structure, and change the project SDK to 17. Now, for whatever reason, it already has changed the project level language. Sometimes I don't understand IntelliJ. Sometimes IntelliJ just does what it wants to, but it doesn't matter. We still need this. If you don't have this, I have a link in the description below for the JDK 17. You just need to download this, install it, just like we've done with any other JDK. Highly recommend also turning on that the Java home variable is set automatically. That is going to save you a lot of, headache. So then this should be fine. And then also just making sure under the settings, build execution deployment, build tools Gradle, that we have chosen the project SDK for the Gradle JVM, just making sure. And after changing this to 7.3, this needs to be changed because otherwise it's not going to work with Java 17. That's very important. We can load the Gradle changes once more. Build successful. That's great. I mean, that's just perfect. And we should, however, get some errors in the mod biomes already. There we are, mod biomes not working. So what are we supposed to do here? We're going to delete the entire biomes package. It's just gone because there's no saving it. We can't save it. It's gone. Both of the calls here are just going to be fine. And then here in the imports, we also have to delete it. There you go. And then no more errors in the imports here. Apart from that, where might the errors lie? In the entity, we have one little error here, which we have to change this to void. And then, of course, we can't return it. We just have to call it. And that's going to be fine. Also, a little change here is that inside of the block entities, we actually, assign the entity right here with this register block entities call, and that's called in the onInitialize method. I believe that you shouldn't have this at the moment already, but that's going to be fine. Now, apart from that, we now need to let's go into the ModBlocks class, and you will see a bunch of break tool does not exist anymore. So this is, of course, sort of, it's the chickens coming home to roost. It just is what it is. We've used it, probably shouldn't have, but it's going to be fine. We're going to be fine with this because now what we need is we need some tags. So we need to put our blocks into tags to specify what tool they need as well as what mining level they are. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, once again, we go to our favorite place in all of IntelliJ, external libraries, and then right here under our crazy name, and then we're going to go into the data folder, Minecraft tags, and we can see the blocks here, and we can see mineable. Ooh, what is this? Axe, hoe, pickaxe, shovel, and those are the 4. And the idea is that these now determine by what a certain block can be broken with. So that's the general idea. So instead of having the pickaxes right here, we need to get this tag. So I'm going to just copy the entire folder. So just click on it, press Ctrl-C to copy it. And then we're going to go into the data, Minecraft, into the blocks folder tags, insert it in here with Ctrl-V or paste it in. And then we're just going to get rid of all of the things that are in here. So just everything inside of here. And then everything in the pickaxe as well. There's a lot of stuff in here, as you can see, like over freaking 300 things. Craziness. Shovel. There are not actually that many things in the shovel. And then the hoe as well, which is even less. And there you go. So we only need stuff for the axe. Now I will copy over the contents. Once again, this is all available to you, of course. This is just going to make this a little easier. We have all of the redwood log stuff. And then for the pickaxe, we have basically all of our, different blocks where we have defined this. And this now all has to go. So we can just delete it all. It's not necessary that we delete it at the moment because it's still deprecated, but it's going to be removed in like a few versions probably. So we're just going to go through here and we're just going to delete it all because that is the right thing to do. And while we're updating, it's going to be fine. The rest should be totally fine here. Now we have defined mineable, but what about the level? No worries there. Instead of the block tags, once again, needs _x tool. Once again, copy it over. Let's get it up here into the blocks folder. And this is going to be the same thing. Needs diamond tools. No. But this one, however, is going to be the case. It needs iron tools. That's exactly right. I'm going to copy these same contents that I have in the pickaxe in there. And need stone tools we can basically also get rid of here. So now both the level as well as the tool has been set here. So this should be fine. And I don't think that we need to do anything else for this. That's going to be fine. Now, in terms of other, classes, there's nothing big that we need to change except for world generation. As the one thing that we need to change, a lot of stuff because it has changed. So for example, if you go in here, this doesn't work anymore, mod configured features, a whole bunch of stuff. As you can see, it's just all going downhill very fast, but no worries, we can actually fix everything in here that we already have. So that's really cool. Now, I will only explain just a little bit about this. I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you want a very comprehensive look at the entire thing here, there's 2 things. Number 1, the Fabric 118 series should already have started. So the first episode should already be live. That's number 1. Number 2, I have a course on Fabric 118 already done that includes all of this stuff. The block entities for 118, the world generation, all of that. Trees, flower, and ore is currently already there. I have links to the Udemy as well as the Skillshare class in the description below. So if you don't want to wait until the 118 the tutorials catch up to that point, which is definitely going to take a few weeks, then take a look at that. There will also be some additional topics as well. I'll go into way more detail there than here, so keep that in mind and check that out. Should be the first 2 links in the description below. Right, but let's carry on right now. And, what are we doing here? We don't have access to the simple block state provider because it's now protected. No worries, actually, this we don't need to do anything crazy. What we just need to do is we need to say block state provider.of. And then we don't even need to specify the default state. We can just take the block. That's really nice, actually. So we can do the same thing for the leaves. And we don't have to do the same thing for the sapling because the sapling is just gone. Now this one here works absolutely great. Now you might say, but wait a second. We have not defined the sapling. That is exactly right, because now we've changed a few things. So, or I haven't changed a few things, but Minecraft has changed a few things. One thing I can always recommend, and I will recommend this every time, go into the vanilla classes, go into the tree class. If you have this blue line here, choose sources and make sure that you have the sources. If you don't have the mapped sources here, so this one in this moment will actually not work, as you can see. What I have to do is I have to go into the terminal./gradle gen sources. Let's just let this run through. You might have to change your Java home, variable so that this works. So you need to change this to the 117. Otherwise, I believe that sometimes the .gradle stuff does not work. That is why I had the, Java home stuff in the Gradle properties. But overall, let's just keep this going through. Be a little bit patient. This might take like a minute or two. All right, here we are, built successful in about a minute, and now I should be able, if I go to choose sources, have this mapped -sources, I say okay, and now after it has reloaded, everything will be available here. So exactly what I need, and now you can see the tree feature, middle mouse button click. Where is this used? Tree configured feature. Fascinating. What could this mean? What could this be? A configured feature of tree feature config. Have we seen this before? Yes, we have. This is exactly what is needed to spawn the tree from the sapling. Now, the oak is actually a really bad example because this has, some defaulted stuff. But then the question is, okay, but where is this used now, right? Where is this used? Well, this is used in the tree place feature. You can see that this is a place feature called oak checked. And this calls the method with wood survive filter of oak sapling. So we're doing this a little bit differently now. So you can see that then the oak checked is now called in the vegetation configured features class. And you can see that this is, of course, in a crazy thing here, which again is a configured feature, this time of random feature config. And if I go into this now becomes a placed feature. And this placed feature is then actually placed in the world. So if this is absolutely crazy to you, it is. Highly recommend still taking a look at all of these classes. They should all be under the gen package feature, and then so you have all of the features as well as all of the placements in here as well. You can see placed features, vegetation placed features, stuff like that. So all of them are under the same package. Highly recommend taking a look at them. That's probably one of your best resources for all of the, changes to the world generation system. Now, what does this mean? Well, what this means is that we're going from this configured feature here to a placed feature to a configured feature to a placed feature, and this then gets generated in the world. Another way that I've done it is, I'm going to copy this over, is the spawn that we had before is now actually going to be done like this. Now you're going to see that we're going to get a few errors because I need to change some methods over here. No worries at all. We're going to get through this. So you can see that this configured feature actually has this with wood survival in here as well. So I've taken sort of this feature out. So I'm going from configured feature to place feature. So that's basically the way that I'm doing it. This might not be the most optimal way, but I found this to work totally fine, so we're going to do it like this. So you no longer need the register. Actually, let's just get rid of all of those methods, and I'm going to copy over the ones that I'm going to need. I'm going to need the create random patch feature config for the bluebells in just a moment. And then this register method is just a little bit different here. So you can see now it should all work fine. Now, the reason why we don't need the key registry anymore is because we actually want to register the key in a new class. So in the features package, right click new Java class, and this is going to be the mod placed features class. Now the way that this is going to work is we're going to take all three keys here and we're just going to take them over and put them over here. Now of course this is going to lead to some problems. First of all, I'm just going to copy over all four methods, right? Like I said, all of this is available to you in the GitHub repository and an individual gist as well. And what you'll find is that these no longer need to be of configured feature, but of placed feature. Because of course, now a placed feature is what we place in the world, no longer a configured feature. So that's the general idea. And after we've done this, we can go into all of our generations and basically replace this with mod placed features. And then everything should immediately work. So Ruby or key and then redwood tree key. There you go. Now we're not quite done yet, especially not with the place features here. So we also need a, well, sort of a spawn. So if we put this in, you can see now we have a redwood placed feature. I call it redwood spawn. You can also call it redwood placed. The most important thing here is just that this name has to match this name. That's very important. Otherwise, it's not going to work, right? Otherwise, this should be totally fine here. And overall, this is going to be okay. Now, we're also going to have an issue right here. Now, this should be no issues, actually, because what I should be able to do is just return this, actually. So mod configured features.redwood tree. Should be no issues here whatsoever. So that's, I think that that's even better anyway. And then the rest of them are just going to have issues right here. That is totally fine because we're going to fix those in just a minute. So the bluebells, well, that's different now. So we're going to have this one, right? So this is the bluebells feature. Once again, this is the configured feature out of which we must make a placed feature. The placed feature is going to look like this. And once again, this name has to match this name, and then it will be totally fine. Once again, also, I've taken most of this stuff from the vanilla code, basically. So I basically taken a lot of that from the vanilla code. Now, the Ruby OR. Now, this is going to be interesting because I'm going to replace this with two things. Number one is the overworld Ruby OR. Now, this is a list of OR feature config targets. Now, you can see that this only replaces stone replaceables with the Ruby OR. Usually, what you would have is you would have a second, well, target here, which targets the deep slate OR replaceables and then has a deep slate Ruby OR variant. I don't have this at the moment, so we're just going to do it like this. Or of course you can also just replace it with the normal Ruby OR, just so that you have an example here, right? Might also work. So let's do it like this. For example, list of this. So we're going to do that and then a comma, and there you go. And then what we can do is we can just say this is the deep slate OR replaceables, and then here you would need a deep slate OR variant. I don't have this at the moment, so it's not going to work, but you should be able to figure this out. This is not too crazy. Right, and then here you can see I register once again a configured feature of Ruby OR. Now, when we have a configured feature, we now of course also need a placed feature, and we're going to put this in here as well. This is what we needed those two methods for, because they're going to use the modifier with count. So it should be very similar, and then you can see there's different height range placement modifiers, and we can call on them uniform, trapezoid, and even of different height providers. So we are basically have way more possibility of changing the placement of our ORs around. Really freaking cool, actually. Like one of the best changes ever. Let's also change all of the stuff in the imports here, the stuff that doesn't work anymore. And believe it or not, I believe that should actually be it. So you can see generally like which classes have to be changed. We have to change this up here, a few things here, a few things here, and then we're basically done, right? Don't forget the tags as well in the Minecraft folder right here. So we have a few tags, and that should be it. And now everything should work exactly as it does before. So, I mean, I guess let's just see if it works. All right, and let's just create a new world, because not only have we messed with the world generation, no, this time we've actually upgraded to a completely new version. So let's just see if it's going to work. What you will definitely be greeted with is the experimental settings, but that's of course totally fine. Let's proceed and let's see the beauty of it. 1.18.1. And we find ourselves in a plains biome, and as you can see, the trees already spawn. Our bluebells spawn exactly how we would expect them to. We can also take a look. Everything here is in there. So let's just see, test block. Let's get a lightning channeler. Let's just get a ruby door for the hell of it. Why not? Set this down. We can open it, close it. The test block, we can right click. We can open the GUI here. We can put stuff in. So everything still seems to be working totally fine. So let's also then go and get some night vision, and let's just the deep below. And there you go. I didn't even have to go far to find our ruby ore around right here, scattered in the world. Now, what would be really interesting is that basically if I keep going down and I go down to the deep slate, we should also find the ruby ore spawning there, which is of course completely out of place because the textures don't match at all, like in the slightest. But that's of course going to be totally fine. You can just replace that with, a different texture. Just make sure that you have two different variants here, and then you're going to be fine. Right, there you go. It is done. making a 118.1, you know, making the jump from 117 to 118.1 actually not that crazy. Once again, of course, the tutorials for 118.1 will come. The first one has already come out. And once again, also, if you don't want to wait as long for, you know, especially the advanced tutorials, you can always check out the course in the description below. The course for Fabric 118 in the description below has 11 hours worth of content already. And I'm going to add, you know, additional topics as well as some exclusive topics which are not going to become tutorials. However, the bulk of the stuff will always become tutorials, so no worries there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But anyway, that would be it for this tutorial right here, and this will completely conclude the 117.1 series for Fabric. I hope you found this useful and you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. So yeah.